Hey everybody, welcome back to Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com, and here on my YouTube channel. And this time out, we're going to take a look at another piece of gear in the rack. I'm going to show you a really cool piece of gear that really enhances our kick, snare, and toms, and that is the Aphex 204, which is an Aural Exciter with an optical big bottom. It's a really cool unit. They don't make them anymore, so you have to find them on the used market, but the good news is they're affordable, and it can really enhance the sound of your kick, snare, and your toms. I'm going to show you that today. We're going to listen to it on kick, snare, and toms so you can see what it does. But before we get started, if you like what you see in this video, please hit that subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so you know when I'm posting new content. So let's head on over here and let's talk a little bit about the Aphex 204. So the Aphex 204, again, as I said, they're not made anymore. You can't find them anymore. New, they don't make them. The company, I think, might even be out of business. But you can't find them on Reverb and eBay for a reasonable amount of money. I paid about $200 to $250 for each one of mine in good condition, and they're great. I have two of them. I was turned on to the Aphex 204 actually by Andrew Sheps, who did a mixing demonstration on puremix.net, which is a wonderful education website. You should check that out if you don't know about puremix.net. I was watching one of Andrew's mixing demonstration videos, and he uses an Aphex 204 on toms, and it's like a magic box. It just makes tom-tom sound wonderful. And I thought, hey, that's a killer box. I got to check out one of those. And I ended up getting two of them. One for the kick and the snare. It's a 2-channel unit, and the other 2-channel unit is for toms on my drums. They sound really cool. So thanks, Andrew, for passing that along to me. I love the way it sounds. It's a simple box. If you can find one, I highly recommend that you check it out because I think you'll really like it. And I've also heard that it's really good on bass guitar as well, but I haven't tried it out on bass guitar. So what we have going on today is we have the Aphex 204. I have hard patched in the racks via my patch bay, always to come up on channel 1 and 2 for my kick and snare for the first unit, and channel 4 and 5 for my 2 toms for the second unit. So let's head on over to the Aphex and let me show you the controls of it. It's a really simple layout. And let's talk about it, and I'm sure you'll see an image come up on the screen. So let's head on over here to the rack, and let's talk about the Aphex 204. So I have 2 units here. The top unit is for the toms. The bottom unit is for my kick and for my snare. So we'll start with the top unit here. I'll walk you through the controls. It's really, really simple. So on channel 1 here, this is on our would be on our bottom unit, would be on our kick drum here. So we have a drive control, which a drive control is how much signal you're driving into the unit, and it has a little clip light here, an LED that'll go from green to red if you're driving it too much. According to the manual, as the kick or as the transients kind of hitting, you want this kind of pulsate and kind of light up green. You don't want to drive it too much. And I have it pretty conservatively, just kind of up at 12 noon. Then we have a tune, and a tune is a frequency selector. It's sweepable from min to max. Now in the manual, it kind of tells you what the frequency range is. Honestly, I don't care what the frequency range is. I'm just using my ears to tune it to my ears, but this is a frequency selector. And then this mixes how much of the actual big bottom effect that you want. And you say, well, what does it really do, the big bottom? The big bottom is going to enhance the super low end of, in our case, the kick or the toms, and it's going to add a little bit more punch and a little bit more attack on the transient is kind of what it does. You can read the manual and research it online to see what it does. It talks all about psychoacoustics and all kinds of stuff. It adds some harmonic distortion and those kinds of things. We don't want to get too technical. Just know that it makes it sound awesome. That's all I really need to know, and that's all you really need to know. But you could go read the manual if you want to know all the technical ins and outs of it. So that's the big bottom side of channel 1. Channel 1 here's the Aural Exciter side. This is going to help and going to enhance the top end, the higher frequencies. We have a tune knob here again for frequency selection. We have our min and max harmonics knob here, which will go between 2nd order and 3rd order harmonics. And then again, we have our mix, okay? Then next to that, we have our process in and out. This is our bypass button to take it in and out of the circuit. So here's channel 1. The top unit's on tom 1. Channel 2, same exact controls on tom 2. On the bottom unit, we have the channel 1 is my kick, channel 2 is my snare, and that's really it. So the way I have this thing wired up here, as I said, it's hard patched in via an insert on the board. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the kick. I'm going to solo up the kick, and I'm going to come over here to the Aphex, and we're just going to take in and out with the process with the bypass button on the unit itself, so you can see when it's taken in and out of the circuit, but you'll be able to hear it. And I'll twist some of the knobs a little bit so you can get kind of the effect of what it does. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to solo up this kick drum here. We have two kicks in the DAW, a kick in and a kick out that's being routed to a kick group track, and then from that track it's being routed out to the board here on channel 1. Here is the kick drum with the right now with the Aphex 204 engaged, and let's go over there and twiddle the knobs and you can hear what it does. Okay, so you hear what it does on the kick drum. It just gives a nice low thickness to the kick depending on where you dial in the tune encoder. And then on the Aural Exciter part, on the top end, you can get more of the click to come out. And again, I like to do things a little bit more subtle. That's probably even a little too aggressive. I exaggerated it so you can really hear the difference. And then typically what I would do is do this in the context of the mix and dial it in. It really helps make the click of the beater come through, and it gives it a nice little low thickness to that bottom end of that kick drum. So that's the kicks. Now if I bring in the snare and we go over and take a look at channel 2, on the bottom unit, you can see and hear what the snare does. Here we go. Okay, so you can hear what it does to the snare. It completely transforms the sound of the snare drum, especially on the low end, which I really, really like. So now let me bring in kick, snare, and let's listen to both of them together, and I'll take both of them in and both of them out at the same time so you can hear what's going on there. So here we go. Okay, so that's what it does on kick and snare. So now on the top end, on the Aural Exciter part of the snare drum, when you get to that mix knob, you got to be careful, because if you're getting a lot of hi-hat bleed in the snare mic, which you typically do, it can make the hi-hat sound a little bit too brittle in the snare, on the snare track. So you got to kind of be careful. You got to dial it into taste, but it's just a nice way to enhance the overall kick and snare. Now there's some EQ being done on the board as well, but that's a way to enhance it. So now let's take a listen to the same thing. I got the other unit on toms here. This is a good track where we got a nice tom buildup. So let's listen to some toms. We have tom 1 on channel 1 of the top unit in the rack. Tom 2 is the floor tom on channel number 2. So let's start with tom 1. So this is where I saw Andrew Scheps first use this on toms, and he made a statement, something to the effect of, it's just the only thing he's ever heard piece of gear wise that makes the toms not sound like cardboard, and he's absolutely right. I mean, it's magical on toms. It's just like you just twist it, put it in, it's like there's the tom sound. It almost takes a raw tom track, it almost makes it sound like a polished sample that you get from one of drum replacement software samples. It really sounds great. So that's tom 1. Let's go to tom 2. Okay, so now let's do both toms together, and I'll take them both in and out at the same time. And again, you just dial it into the taste. Sounds great, right? So now let's do kick, snare, toms, and I'll take them both in and both out at the same time. Sounds fantastic. Pardon me. So that is the Aphex 204. Again, they don't make them anymore, but you can find them used. I love them. I think I might even get another one for bass guitar, and if I get a third one at one point, we'll check it out on bass. But anything with that low-end information is really cool. Now, there is a plugin that does something similar to this that I really like. If you can't get one of these or you don't want hardware or whatever, check out Waves R-Bass. That does something similar in the way it works. And I've done a full YouTube video review of R-Bass over at my other YouTube channel, Home Recording Made Easy, where I actually got the user manual out and read how R-Bass really works. You may want to check that out. Again, it's more than just a kind of a compressor and kind of a bass boost. Pardon me. It has a lot to do, a lot of algorithms and stuff under the hood that works with psychoacoustics, so on and so forth. It's a clever plugin. And when I was mixing in the box, I would use R-Bass on toms, bass all the time, and sometimes kick drum. This kind of does that same thing in hardware form, but it also gives you not just the big bottom part of it, the low end, but it also gives you the top end with the Aural Exciter, which is really cool. So if you don't want the hardware or you can't find it and you want something that'll give you some similar results, check out R-Bass by Waves. But if you can get your hands on an Aphex 204, I think you really enjoy it. And like I said, you can get them reasonably inexpensive on the used market. So check that out. So I hope you enjoyed this video taking a look at the Aphex 204. Once again, leave some comments below and let me know if you've ever tried that before, if you ever used it. Do you know of another piece of hardware that does something similar to it? And if you do, let us know below. So if you can't find an Aphex 204 and someone wants to pick up an alternative or a piece, that would be really good to know. So let me know below what you thought of this video. If you have any other video ideas and things you'd like to see specifically here in our hybrid setup on our console, I'd be glad to do that for you. And until the next video, I've been Dave with Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com. Thank you so much for joining me this week, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everybody.